We have a situation where multiple lives are hanging by a mere thread, and the tension in that room is so thick you could cut it with a knife. On one side, we have Jens, a man consumed by an agonizing grief, driven by the absolute belief that he is exacting righteous vengeance for his devastating loss. On the other side, we have Sonny, a seasoned strategist who knows exactly how to play the psychological long game when his back is against the wall. This is not just a physical standoff with weapons drawn, it is a mental chess match of the highest order. The stakes could not possibly be higher, considering that innocent lives are trapped right in the middle of this mafia warfare. When you look at the sheer scale of this confrontation, you have to realize that every single word spoken in that room is a calculated move designed to shift the balance of power. Let us really break down what is happening in that tense confrontation between these two powerful men. Sonny is not just throwing out wild accusations to save his own skin or buy time. He is dropping a nuclear truth bomb right into the lap of his enemy. By revealing that Ross is the actual person who murdered Marco, Sonny is executing a brilliant, high-risk strategy. He has taken the very foundation of Jens's blinding rage and completely dismantling it piece by piece. You have to understand the psychological motive here. Sonny knows that a man driven by false vengeance is a dangerous wild card, but a man who realizes he has been played for a fool by his own trusted ally becomes a lethal weapon pointed in the opposite direction. Sonny is banking on the fact that the cold, hard truth, backed by undeniable proof, will be enough to break the hypnotic hold that Ross has had over this entire operation. Imagine the sheer psychological whiplash that Jens must be experiencing in that exact moment of revelation. For all this time, he has directed every ounce of his hatred, every meticulously planned trap, and every violent threat toward Sonny, believing, with his whole heart, that he was avenging Marco. Now, he is forced to confront the agonizing reality that he has been sleeping with the proverbial enemy. The shattered trust he must feel toward Ross is likely suffocating and entirely overwhelming. It is one thing to be betrayed by a known rival. It is an entirely different level of trauma to realize that the man you trusted, the man who stood by your side and fueled your anger, is the actual monster who slaughtered your child. This realization does not just change the game, it flips the entire board upside down and sets it on fire. Jens is a proud, dangerous man, and the intense humiliation of being manipulated by Ross is going to ignite a firestorm of epic proportions. Now, we absolutely must talk about the terrifying collateral damage in this twisted scenario. I am talking about the hostages, Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, and Carly. These four women are trapped in a living nightmare, entirely at the mercy of a man who has proven time and time again that he has zero moral boundaries when it comes to getting what he wants. If you ask me, the terror they are enduring in that confined space is unimaginable. Liesel, with all her historical cunning and survival instincts, knows that they are currently just expendable pawns on a very bloody chessboard. Carly is likely losing her mind trying to shield and protect Jocelyn, while Justine is slowly realizing that all her extensive legal knowledge is utterly useless in a room full of armed mobsters. They are sitting ducks, waiting for a stray bullet or a sudden miracle. But here is where the psychological shift happens. If Jens suddenly realizes that his war with Sonny is based on a massive lie, what happens to these women? Do they suddenly lose their value as leverage, or do they become the ultimate bargaining chips in a brand new, even more dangerous game? It looks like Jens is going to have to make a split-second decision that will define the rest of his life and the lives of everyone in that room. If he continues to hold Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, and Carly captive, he is just wasting valuable resources and inviting unnecessary heat from Sonny and his enforcers. But if he lets them go, he is making a massive, undeniable statement to the criminal underworld. Releasing these women would not just be an act of unexpected mercy, it would be a highly strategic, calculated move to prove to Sonny that the old war is officially over and a new, darker alliance is forming. By handing over Carly and Jocelyn completely unharmed, Jens would essentially be offering a blood-soaked olive branch to the most powerful man in town. It is a brilliant way to say, I recognize the real enemy, and I am willing to clear the deck, so we can hunt him down together. This brings us to the first potential path this story could take. Based on all the evidence we have seen, let us call this Scenario A. In this scenario, Jens immediately pivots his entire operation upon seeing Sonny's proof. The overwhelming grief and rage over Marco are instantly redirected away from Sonny and aimed squarely at the true culprit, Ross. Jens orders his armed guards to stand down, unlocks the heavy doors, and allows Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, and Carly to walk out into the daylight. This would be a monumental shock to everyone involved. Imagine Carly's absolute disbelief when the man who wanted to destroy her entire family suddenly steps aside and lets her beloved daughter go free. Could it be that Jens actually possesses a tiny shred of twisted honor beneath all that violence? In this version of events, Jens realizes that keeping the hostages only hinders his ability to exact true, unadulterated revenge on the man who actually killed his son. If scenario A plays out, we are looking at the birth of an unholy alliance that will shake the very foundations of this town to its core. Jens and Sonny, two men who were ready to slaughter each other just moments prior, suddenly finding themselves standing shoulder to shoulder on the same side of the battlefield. And you know exactly who else would be brought into this dangerous fold: Jason. Jason is the ultimate enforcer, and if Sonny gives the definitive word, Jason will work alongside the devil himself to neutralize a massive threat like Ross. But guys, we have to look critically at the unforeseen fallout of such a dark partnership. Can you ever truly trust a man who held your loved ones at gunpoint just hours ago? The tension in any room they share would be absolutely suffocating. They would be working together, sharing sensitive intelligence, and tracking Ross's every move, but always with one hand hovering nervously over their weapons. It would be a partnership built entirely on mutual hatred for a third party, and those kinds of alliances are notoriously fragile and prone to violent collapse. In this specific scenario, Ross transforms overnight from the ultimate, untouchable puppet master into the most hunted man on the planet. He has been pulling strings from the shadows, manipulating Jens' grief, framing his enemies, and acting like he is the smartest person in the room. But if Jens and Sonny combine their vast criminal resources, their extensive surveillance networks, and their sheer ruthlessness, Ross has literally nowhere left to hide. This implies that we are going to see a relentless manhunt unlike anything this show has delivered in years. Ross would be scrambling, realizing too late that his master plan to play these titans against each other has spectacularly backfired. The psychological terror of knowing that both Jens and Sonny are coming for you would be enough to break any man's sanity. Ross thought his arrogance in killing Marco and hiding the truth was his greatest triumph, but it is going to be his fatal, bloody undoing. But hold on a second, guys. We cannot just blindly assume that Jens is going to have a sudden change of heart and play nice with the people he just terrorized. That leads us directly to scenario B. What if Jens hears this devastating truth about Marco, sees the undeniable proof, but flatly refuses to relinquish his power over the situation? In scenario B, Jens fully realizes that Ross is the true killer, but he also knows that Sonny is still a massive, unpredictable threat to his own survival. Could it be that Jens decides to keep Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, and Carly exactly where they are, locked away in the dark? If you ask me, this would be a deeply sinister, calculated move designed to maintain absolute control. Jens might not trust Sonny's proof entirely just yet, or he might decide that he desperately needs the hostages as a vital insurance policy. He might look Sonny dead in the eye and say, "I will hunt Ross, but these women stay with me until the job is completely done." This would create a torturous, agonizing dynamic where Sonny is forced to work hand in hand with Jens while his family remains in imminent daily danger. Let us dig much deeper into the dark psychological motive behind scenario B. Jens is a man who operates entirely on dominance and control. Losing control of the narrative regarding Marco's death is a massive, humiliating blow to his fragile ego. To immediately release the hostages would be a public sign of submission to Sonny's truth, something a man like Jens despises. Jens might have a much darker, ulterior motive here. This implies that he could actively use Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, and Carly as human bait to draw Ross out of hiding. Think about the twisted logic for a moment. Ross knows these women are highly valuable assets. If Jens makes it look to the outside world like he is still at war with Sonny, Ross might confidently step out of the shadows to deliver the final blow to his enemies, completely unaware that Jens is waiting for him with a loaded gun and a heart full of vengeance. It is a terrifying, sickening thought, using innocent lives as bait, but it is entirely in line with Jens' ruthless, sociopathic character. Regardless of which scenario ultimately plays out on our screens, we have to acknowledge the severe, long-lasting psychological trauma that Liesel, Jocelyn, Justine, An, and Carly are going to carry with them long after this immediate crisis is over. You do not just walk away from being held captive by a grieving, unhinged warlord without deep, permanent emotional scars. Carly will likely become even more fiercely, almost suffocatingly overprotective of Jocelyn, potentially leading to massive, explosive conflicts between mother and daughter down the line. Justine is going to have to somehow reconcile her deep belief in the justice system with the cold, hard reality that sometimes brutal mob justice is the only thing that actually saves your life in this town. And Liesel? Liesel is going to quietly plot her own devastating revenge against anyone who dared to lock her in a cage. The shattered trust these women have in their own basic safety will be a compelling storyline that ripples through this town for years to come. The unforeseen fallout of this hostage crisis is going to reshape their personalities in dark, unpredictable, and fascinating ways. We also absolutely cannot ignore Jason's critical role in all of this unfolding chaos. Jason operates on a very strict, unyielding code of loyalty to Sonny and fierce protection of Carly and Jocelyn. If Sonny tells Jason to stand down and actively work with Jens to find Ross, Jason will do it because he follows orders, but the psychological toll it will take on him will be immense and visible. Jason knows exactly what kind of monster Jens is. He knows the extreme danger of letting a man like that walk away just because they happen to share a common enemy for the time being. If you ask me, Jason is going to be the ultimate wild card in this fragile alliance. He will be watching Jens's every single move, analyzing every word, waiting for the slightest hint of betrayal. And if Jens even looks at Carly or Jocelyn the wrong way during the supposed truce, Jason will not hesitate to put a bullet right between his eyes, regardless of what Sonny has previously agreed to. The simmering tension between Jason and Jens is going to be a massive powder keg just waiting for a single spark to blow everything to pieces. So, where does this leave us as viewers? We are looking at a bleak landscape where the traditional lines between hero and villain, ally and enemy, are completely blurred beyond recognition. Will Jens actually step up, release the innocent hostages, and seek a twisted, violent form of redemption by hunting the man who truly killed Marco? Or is this all just another complex layer of deception in a never-ending bloody war of massive egos? If you ask me, anyone expecting Jens to suddenly become a misunderstood anti-hero with a heart of gold is going to be sorely, bitterly disappointed. A man who is entirely willing to terrorize innocent women to soothe his own grief is not a man who can be saved or redeemed. He might point his gun at Ross today, but the darkness inside him is permanent and all-consuming. Do not let your guard down, guys. This alliance, if it even happens, is a dangerous deal with the devil, and sooner or later, the devil always comes to collect his bloody due.